Okay. So welcome to the Evolve vlog. This is much harder than it looks, at least when Daniel, Alejandra, and Paulina do it. I guess it's easier if you're hanging with your sisters and you get to goof around between sentences and but anyway, so a lot of you guys have been asking for this vlog to get a little bit more information on the video that we did for Evolve. So I'll take it, I'll go all over the place, but I'll try to start from the beginning and tell you guys a little bit about how we did it. And I must imagine that this ring light is reflecting on my glasses, so I'll take those off. Yeah, definitely not used to talking to a lonely camera. And here we go. So Evolve, when the strategy for the second single to came out became Evolve, which was not always the first strategy, because now definitely in the music industry everything changes so much and you have to kind of be aware of what's going on and what comes next. We decided, along with the label, that Evolve would be the next single. There was never a video planned out for Evolve, but because we had such an amazing reaction to the Choke video, we said let's do something. But since it wasn't in the cards or the strategy, there was no actual budget for that video. So that's when kind of my head started spinning with different ideas on how can we make something that doesn't need a big budget. I don't remember, I think it was very soon when, you know, iPhone popped into my head, especially iPhone 12 and this whole, even the TV commercial that they did when that phone came out. It was Emmanuel Lubezki, who is a Mexican cinematographer and one of the best cinematographers in the world, and it shows how he does these like amazing shots with barely any light, and you know, and it looks great. And we know it has 4K capabilities and also to go at 24 frames or 30 or 60 frames. So I think iPhone was the first thing that popped into my head as far as budget, because shooting with iPhone means not renting a camera, not having to have an actual, you know, camera operator or a camera assistant, not a lot of lights, not a lot of lighting for the set. So then that was in my head and I said, well, it's been done, you know, people have shot stuff with iPhones. What if we do 18 iPhones? And I started working with that idea then and how that would work. I think it was pretty soon after that it was like, what kind of video would it be? And obviously it had to be one location because of costs, just most likely a straight through playback kind of video. The girls had already had this wardrobe idea for a long time. Even I think since we were in Jersey, Paulina had like these mood boards on these white suits with different accessories that look great. So we were like, let's work with something that you guys already have, and you know, these ideas are there. And then one day, it was the election period here in Monterrey for the mayor, the governors, and councilmen. And one of my good friends was running for, I think it was councilman, and he shot like this kind of take on a James Bond video. He was trying to be creative. It's not a very good commercial, but I can show it to you at some point. But I saw the location that he used and it looked like a garage. It had like all these fancy cars and he got on this like really expensive car and kind of drove off. Um, so I called him. He had lost the election, and I sent him a message and I said, hey, you know, congratulations on your campaign and good luck with everything moving forward. And I said, by the way, uh, where did you shoot that, you know, commercial? Where's that Bond garage? And he said, well, it belongs to our good friend Alejandro Camargo. So right away I wrote Alejandro Camargo and I said, hey bud, I saw your garage on this commercial. He's like, yeah, it's like my little playground in my business, and this is where I sell, you know, expensive and European cars as a business. And I'm like, oh, I knew you had that business, I just didn't know where is it? And he's like, we're at this plaza. And it turns out it's literally 2-minute walk from my house, literally. And I'm like, I'm walking over there right now. I go and check it out and I tell him about this idea I have for the video, and he's like, location is yours, just let me know when you want to do it, we'll move all the cars out, anything that you guys need, you can count on, you know, my support. So then I showed the team, Luis and Monica and the girls, this location, and I said, I think this is a great location. It just looks very slick and white, and it has like the symmetry with the ceiling, this polished floor, and you know, I think we can do some really good stuff there. And the idea is actually to do it with, you know, 18 iPhones. I think by then I had this famous sketch, which is actually a bank statement from something. And I was on a plane and I drew this sketch, which I posted at some point. And that's like exactly where and how I was envisioning these camera setups. And in the end, it really ended up being almost exactly that. So I planned 18 iPhones on here, and in the end, it says in the video it's 16 because we did have the 18 iPhones, but when we ended up doing like certain shots, we were reusing other iPhones that we had, so we didn't have to pull the 18 out, and it was just easier not to have that many phones rolling. Like for example, when we did the drone, the actual phones weren't rolling, or when we did the DJI handheld, the phones weren't rolling because just we didn't want footage with other stuff moving in the shot. And I always thought of a drone, and then Luis said like it should be an acrobatic drone, and I'm like, yeah, of course, that's a great idea. So we got this acrobatic drone, which is a really tiny drone that, you know, is when it turns red, you see some of those amazing shots. It was pretty cool. He actually drove it in between cables and between the girls, and it turned out really cool. So playing around with this idea, and then I was like, how are we gonna shoot it? And then I saw a documentary. It's not a documentary, it's like a studio session for, what's his name? Oh my God, totally blew my mind. English guy, he's at Abbey Road Studios, Sam Smith. Abbey Road Studios, and he's singing these songs, and there's a point where, you know, all these cameras are set up beautifully, and then the room turns absolutely red. And I'm like, that would be really cool. So I call one of my friends and I'm like, hey, he's the guy that supports us with when we rent audio equipment or anything that we need, like smoke machines and lighting, and even the big screens that we use in some of our concerts. So he's been a friend forever, and I'm like, do you have these floodlights? He's like, yeah, I have those and they're great, and okay, so we'll do them. And then I said, Raciel, who, you know, you guys probably know from doing all our after movies for many years. Raciel worked for me at Creative Dreams, doing a lot of the audiovisual production. He doesn't work at Creative Dreams anymore, but so, you know, we hire him to do freelance stuff once in a while. And I said, hey, so, you know, we don't have any budget, but this is a good opportunity for you to come on as a cinematographer, and I'll direct this video, I'll produce it, and then, you know, let's talk about ideas. And really it was a like tiny crew. I called a friend who's like a production manager just to help me kind of organize ins and outs of things. But again, we had no budget. So the girls hired a friend of theirs to do the makeup, and you know, she did a great job. Wardrobe was basically done, but Marcela, my wife, also helped Monica and the girls just with little things as far as accessorizing, and we bought, you know, she bought some things for them online that worked also, belts and the gloves and, you know, some of the shoulder pads and stuff like that. Marcela, my wife, she studied fashion design way back when, and so she loves doing that kind of styling stuff, and she's been working with them. Just, you know, different little things. Oh, sorry about that. And I guess I'll leave that in as a blooper funny moment. Since I'm not as funny as Daniela and Paulina and Ale. That was horrible. Okay, so pulled in a lot of favors. Obviously, my friend with the garage, he didn't charge us anything. Okay. Oh my God. I know Paulina's gonna get a kick out of this one. So we got everything together, and we were trying to find out if there was some kind of software or even hardware cables that we could connect all of the iPhones together and kind of sync them where we can just start recording at the same time for editing purposes. Because I just thought it was kind of crazy that we had to push record on every phone. Well, guess what? In the end, that's how it turned out. Here are some of the things. So I went online and started looking for like different gadgets on how we were gonna hook these up, and bought a couple different ones and tests. Luis had some that we put on the tripods. And it's funny because some people mention Pretender from Foo Fighters, and yes, definitely some inspiration on the main angle for Alejandra and Danny on the microphone. It's a video that I love, and definitely those angles were inspired from that. And other angles, just thinking, you know, where the best action is really and what we wanted to feature. And you know that, you know, Alejandra, Daniel, and Paulina are just fantastic. They love the camera loves them. And as I told them, even on the Enter Salmon video, which Alejandra just pressured into me doing another vlog talking about that, I will. I promise. That was a lot of fun. But even directing them, one, I've known them for 5 years. I know their strengths, and I am the kind of director that if, you know, the talent knows what they're doing, just let them do their thing, become natural, instead of forcing some type of action unless it's really necessary for the story or the shot. But if you just let them do their things because they're performers and stage performers, they'll probably just do it great, and that's what happens. But also part of being, I think, a smart director is being able to do that, to let the talent just bring the best and then just make certain adjustments. So for me, it was just like, you know, this is where you can let loose. This is the playback where you get to play around with camera and, you know, point and take your instrument and kick or whatever you want to do. So it was pretty simple. We were there early just because we had the location and we had the crew that were helping out. So it took us a while to take all the cars out, clean the place up, make sure that everything would be ready. It was actually really hot. It was hotter than we had planned. It was like those days, those summer days were really, really hot. And even though we're like 3 floors down in this plaza, it was really stuffy. So we brought in a couple coolers that weren't that cool because they were humid, because they're water-based coolers. And then brought another one which is air-based, but still it was very hot in there. We went early and tested some of the things with the drone, and then how we were going to set up. So we set up the equipment, the stage. Originally the plan was to shoot towards a different wall, and once we were there, Raciel and I, we were like, okay, I think we have a longer shot if we turn it to this side, plus it's cleaner and we get not to see this here and that, so we switched that around. And then one of the key points, and I love this process because you can always plan just to make sure that whatever happens, if your original plan just works, then it's great. You always need to know if your original plan doesn't work, how to solve in other ways. But many of the magic happens when things change for the good. Oh, this happened, so we tried this, and that's how it ended up. In this case, we had brought these floodlights that were gonna be in the front of the camera towards them, and it was gonna flood red. And then Raciel is like, you know what, the lighting equipment truck has other red floodlights, so why don't we bring those and shoot them from the front, and these ones that look kind of vintage and cool, let's take them to the back as part of an art piece. And it's those, you know, circular lights that you see just flashing in the background, white and red, and that really helped. There was always the idea of having cables all around, but there wasn't really like a set design, and we didn't have an art crew. So I did ask the guy that rented the equipment. I said, just bring all sorts of long cables, and you know, thin ones and thick ones and whatever. And then I'm like, okay, pile them up. And then I looked over about where we were doing the shot, and there was like this one, almost like a curtain hanger thing. It was a tube. We're like, oh, well, that, you know, can we hang some of the cables on that? And it just worked perfectly. And we're like, just, you know, here and there, pull them lower, longer, more saturated, and it looked great. And it was just better than having like a white plain wall in the back. Plus we had a lot of extra cables on the floor. We were just like art pieces, and these are the things that at the same time when we were working with the label for the art. So when we did the art for Choke, there was a base of art that we had been working with the girls even way back in November, December, being like this television or glitchy, and the, you know, the binary codes and all that. But when we started getting close to shooting the videos for Choke, I knew we had that, like, no, you know what? The hand came first, like the choking water. So when we did Choke, I asked Gabriel, the director, I said, make sure you do this shot of this hand. So that worked the other way around, and he did this shot, which actually just matches the art that was proposed by the label, and worked between all of us, that, you know, those little tweaks. And then, so when Evolve was coming out and we were already doing the video, I'm like, I think here it's about the eye, and it's red, and there's cables, and then that's how kind of like, okay, so what do you think of this art? And that's how that art came about, which was really cool at first. And also we had worked with other effects. We had some ideas of glitchy eyes. Raciel had a great idea at first to do with the green screen, which actually in the end, it's not like it didn't work, which is the video didn't need it. And those are kind of like the great things that it's cool to let go of, even though it's planned, and then it's like, oh, it doesn't need it. Initially, there was a first edit done, um, which we didn't like, and then we brought in Gabriel, who directed and edited Choke, to do like an emergency edit on Evolve, and it turned out amazing. He's just such a great editor, and he's a musician as well, so he knows, and he edits with waveforms, so he's like, you know, with the beat, on the beat, off beat, but just the rhythm was so good, and he really you know, made it pop. So when we were doing that editing process, our friend of ours who owns the editing suite, he said, you know what, I'm just gonna check if this is recording, because if not, sorry guys. See, we don't have the privilege of the little red light. So we were doing this emergency edit at a friend's editing suite on the weekend, right before we had to turn it in. And then our friend says, you know what, I know a really good colorist, if you guys want me to call him. And we're like, yeah, we're here, let's do it. This video was shot on iPhone, so definitely it would be great to have a colorist just to give it, you know, the best image possible. And in comes Alan Zuniga, who I had never met before. Chemistry was great. He did an amazing job as a colorist. And then we invited him because when we met him, he's like, hey, well, I'm actually a cinematographer, Rudy. So he sent me his reel, and he was a cinematographer for Enter Sandman. I actually invited him to be a co-director with me on Enter Sandman, as well as a cinematographer, and he was also the colorist on Enter Sandman. And he is an amazing, amazing guy, very talented, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna keep working with him on other cool, you know, projects in the future. So anyway, yeah, so we did this edit, and Gabriel, it was great. It was tough because the Villarreal family, they were flying to Europe. They were on the plane about to take off, and I could only send them like through WhatsApp, like 3 different clips. And you couldn't really, you know, the quality is not the best, but they at least kind of, I think they flew at ease, that things were much better than the first cut that we had seen, which I know they were very nervous about. I wasn't, because I knew that in the end, the footage was there. It was just about having the correct vibe and, you know, beat and momentum. Evolve is such an amazing, fast-paced, runaway train kind of song that for the video, it has to be visually as driven. You can't have the video slow down the song, if that makes any sense. So it has to gallop like at the same time and move it forward. So when we shot the video, the idea was to have we did white and then we did red playbacks. We weren't sure if we're going to use red throughout the video or in different parts of the video. Those are things that you have them, and then you know that in post-production, those are the kind of decisions you can make creatively. And again, just not be attached to certain things, because then all of a sudden, because things don't work, you make creative adjustments that in the end nobody will find out about unless they have a vlog on videos. But in this case, we started editing, and there was a part when we go into this siren, which is this kind of alert moment bridge on Evolve, and there was a transition between white and red that I really liked on the edit, But we were also working with trying to use different effects like filters and glitches. Like I said, there was going to be some glitches on the eyes that we actually did do for Danny, and it kind of, I don't know, it kind of looked like 80s sci-fi, and it just didn't work. And for me, like, I trust the people that I surround myself with, and I'm really open to get all of their opinions. In this case, Gabo, the editor, was like, Rudy, it doesn't need it. It doesn't need any of these gimmicks. Let's take off all those filters. Let's, if the eye works, let's leave it. And then that's when we decide just to keep it at the end, because it was a featured kind of thing at the beginning, but it didn't work as well. And for us, the story was, at this part of evolution where we are going into becoming these, not robots per se, but digitalized evolution, humans. But anyway, so we ended up using the eye at the end for that reason. But there was other things like I shot what I call a doggy cam. At first, it was going to be a remote control car with a camera that was going to be driving between them and their feet. And then I remember this gadget called a doggy cam in the 90s, which is kind of like an inverse. Now there's so many amazing gadgets to work with, like the Ronin. Before it was Steadicam, it's still used, but now like Ronin and other gadgets. And the doggy cam is it's like if you tie an iPhone to a broom and then you're just moving it around the floor. So we did one of those, and it was okay, but once Gabriel started editing again, he's like, Rudy, it doesn't need it. It doesn't flow with the story, not the way I'm editing and visualizing it. And I said, cool, man. It's like, I'm not married to these shots. I want to have the best video possible. And the essence of it is like this fast-paced, badass playback shot on these iPhones. So things like that ended up being outtakes. So yeah, it was cool. It was a cool experience, and it was cool that how we came up with the solution of bringing in Gabo to save the day with the editing process. So it was really cool, and it was the day also in the project with why I met Alan Zuniga, which is also a great new friend and asset moving forward with other projects. So that was really cool as well. In the end, the girls, I think they were there for less than 3 hours because we had everything set up. It was hot. We did a couple playbacks, and then we said, let's do a couple more because we're here. But since you're shooting 16 angles at the same time, choke, for example, it's like one camera, playback, just doing this, and then switch the angle again, and they did it like 26 times for choke. Here we had 16 angles going at the same time. So the only thing that really had us do more playbacks is because we did a couple shots with a drone, we did a couple in red, we did a couple of the white, and then a couple of one just normal and one playing with the iPhones on camera. But it was such a quick shoot for talent, as opposed to choke, or as opposed to other videos. I'll talk about Enter Sandman on another vlog. But I like to work pretty effective and fast. Like I kind of think like I know what I want, and I always have a couple things that I protect myself with, but in the end I know what's going to work in editing, and hopefully you'll have the shots. So once you see it is what it is, that's what you have. When you do a master shot, which is a camera that it's right in front and you see everything in front of you, that's called a master shot. That will always be your protection, because as long as you have 2 or 3 master shots and you don't have a certain angle that you want because something happened or one of the cameras turned off or whatever, Danny wasn't on frame or out of focus, you can always go back to the master shot, and that will always save your edit. So I like to think that I'm pretty effective when I plan out my shots. And for me, I mean, this would be what the storyboard would be. It's just like, that's where the camera angles are, and we're gonna shoot it 4 times. And of course, we're gonna get as much as we need. And then you can see here, those were the ideas with the cables there on the floor. You see how there's no cables on the back of Paulina, because that idea really didn't come out until we started setting up everything in that place. But the speakers are there a certain way. I think I captured the girls pretty well. What do you think? I love doing my little things there. But yeah, I'll show you. Enter Sandman was a little bit more designed as far as the shots go. So that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, that's the Evolve video. Again, time, money was the reason. There was no plan to make a video for Evolve, so we did this with pocket change, and it turned out great. I'm really proud of it, and really grateful with everybody that worked on the project with us. So yeah, it was pretty cool, and it was cool to kind of get back on that director's chair again. It was you know, some people were asking, and not a lot of you know, but or a lot of you do know, but not everybody. I was a filmmaker for 15 years, so starting to work with the Warning has just gotten me close to what I love to do, which is making things happen as a manager. And that was my life as a producer, or you know, every step of the way in the film industry, whether it was, you know, as a production manager, line producer, or even assistant director, or then directing. It's just like making things happen and creatively resolving problems. And obviously directing is just, you know, coming up with these concepts and grabbing them on camera and telling a story. So it was really, really cool to get back on the director's chair for that. And of course for Enter Sandman, that was a dream. And I'll talk to you more about that in the other one. But yeah, it was not really planned. You know, it wasn't me trying to, oh, let me jump back into the director's chair because I want to do this. It's just like, if we want to do a video for Evolve, I think this is the only way to do it, and I'll do it. Obviously, I don't earn a cent doing it, so that's, you know, when you don't have a budget and you have a manager that knows how to produce and direct, it kind of works out. So I think it works out for the best, and I hope you all enjoyed the video and love it. And yeah, I think it's 500,000. Is it 500,000 already in a month? So that's pretty cool and exciting. And thank you for watching. I don't even know how long we've gone through this, but again, it's a little bit harder when you're doing it by yourself. I hope I did well, girls. I hope this vlog makes you proud of my first vlog, EVLOG. So thank you, and until next time for the Enter Sandman. Ciao.